All right, free radical people, welcome back. My name is Dave, and this is the Radical Independent. Again, not conservative, not progressive, not anything. I am an issue-by-issue person. I look at every single individual idea and concept and process that, and then I come to a conclusion. This tweet yesterday, and I retweeted, and I am now making a video about it. First of all, I want to apologize to Fiorella. My mom's name was Raffaella. So when I see a name like Fiorella, I think of my mother. She's been gone for a long time. And she was an old school Italian woman. Raised, in the 1950s, 40s, and 50s. My grandfather on her side. I mean, just think of all of that stuff. All of the old Spuria people had names like Fiorella. My aunt's name was Eugenia. So I love that name. That's an awesome name. And I like both her and Pasta. I think they're great people, and I think they do a great job. Because I wanted to soften that blow. I kind of retweeted something that she said yesterday too. I follow and then I get mad. I was in a chat with I think it was Michael Tracy yesterday, Michael Tracy was on fire yesterday. You gotta see this video he did. Talking about woke stuff and non-binary people and shout-outs from AOC. And I love the guy. And he's so articulate. I mean, he'll use words that I'd love to use. Like, he'll think of them right there. And I'm like, dude, excellent vocabulary. You're well-read, and I'm not. So anyway, I went way off on a tangent. But if you can check out what Michael Tracy said yesterday, it was fantastic. Blinders, take them off. If Bernie and Tulsi unite, they can win this primary, period. Nope. No, they can't. They can't. All right, so I'm going to use an expression here. It's a bit of a PG-13 expression. And I'm actually going to put it as the title of the video. I'm probably going to get demonetized because of the title. And I'm just going to continue to just let it be out here. I might upload it to Rockfin. Tulsi Gabbard will not unite with a prostitute. Ooh. Even though she's pro-sex worker. She's pro-sex worker. But Tulsi herself will not unite with a prostitute. Boom. Does this microphone drop? All right. I'm still waiting on my shipment from Vladimir. So I do get moody, and I even said in the chat, that was the point with Michael Tracy. I was in a chat, and people recognized me in the chat. And they said, yeah, I like Dave, but he's a moody SOB. And I said, yes. Yes, I am. And you know what's making me moody? Stuff like this. Again, way before the primary, Bernie Sanders had multiple opportunities to talk about how he and Tulsi Gabbard had a lot of great ideas together. Some of the things Tulsi agrees with, and some of the things she doesn't. And I think her view on things, her take on things, is far more palatable to a general election group of people than what Sanders is proposing. But here's the thing. You get really headstrong during the primary. People start to do the groupthink. They start to think that, number one, they're in a bubble. As much as I think Kyle Kalinske is another guy who's brilliant. But man, does he get in a bubble. He just gets... And it's like the Washington, D.C. people, they're in a bubble. So you know what? I'm wanting people to just pop the damn freaking bubble and start to think for themselves. Is this going to appeal? Michael Tracy said, yeah, this is the kind of rhetoric that will really appeal to a 60-year-old black guy from Illinois. And it won't, but he's making that point that the Democratic Party doesn't, for the most part, the progressive end of the party doesn't see where they're losing it. Their presentation is wrong. And I've been talking about this since the very beginning. Now, this tweet, this video is primarily about this tweet. It's too late, and it's not true. And everybody knows it. There's no way. Here's the other reason why it can't be, because the establishment hates Bernie and they hate Tulsi more. So if you unite, they're going to double down on the ghosting, the rigging, the blocking, the conditioning. We could talk about conditioning versus rigging, by the way. We could talk about it. It's not that much different, but it is different. We're all conditioned by our environment every single day. And if you're consuming shite all day, I'll use the past tense, if you're consuming a pile of shite every single day, this is the stuff that you're gonna be used to consuming. You're not gonna know the truth if it hits you. And I think there are a lot of assumptions out there that people are lemmings and they're going over a cliff and they don't know what they're doing and so forth. But a lot of people do actually know what they're doing. There's a lot of willful ignorance. There's a lot of, I'm content in my little world here. Even though the NBA has decided to suspend their season, and it appears that the NHL might do the same thing because of coronavirus, I'm still content with my sports and my video games and my music and my pursuits. Politics is a mere little 4-year fraction of my time. And occasionally I might vote in a congressional election if I'm really, vigilant. Folks, we're barking up a tree that doesn't have any leaves on it. It's just a tree. It's just like, okay, well, there's nothing. And this idea that you're putting out there, and this is very naive, and I'm sorry, Fee. There's so many reasons why this isn't true. They can't win the primary. It's done. It's over. If Tulsi Gabbard ran to a podium and said, I endorse Bernie Sanders, or better, Bernie ran to a podium and said, you know what? This would be way better than Tulsi running to a podium and saying that I endorse Bernie. Bernie needs to run to a podium and say to Tulsi Gabbard, I'm sorry. Let me repeat that. Bernie Sanders needs to run to a podium and say, I'm sorry. It's almost unforgiving. Now, would Tulsi forgive? Yeah, there'd be a hug, there'd be an aloha. She'd probably have a lei in her purse, and she could, that's sexist, isn't it? Her purse. And put it over Bernie's head and put it around him and say, hey, Bernie, I got this. I got this. Bernie doesn't have this. Bernie is almost like a figment of her imagination at this point. Bernie was built up as a savior. A 78-year-old who says to everybody, I'm a democratic socialist. Not only do I have to convince the country that socialism is good, I've got to run. And I've got to convince people that I'm healthy and I'm able and I can do this job. He's not doing it anymore. He's done. He's toast. He threw in the towel, Fee. He threw in the towel before Tulsi threw in the towel. And yeah, I know. Tulsi doesn't have any support. She's at 2%, 1%. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. I'd rather be voting for the Jill Stein character in this election, and it's Tulsi Gabbard. She is the Jill Stein character here. Bernie Sanders is part of the status quo. He's a little left of center of the normal status quo, but his ideas on Russiagate, on preemptive strikes on countries that conduct nuclear tests on their own soil. He's for preemptive strikes because he wanted to appeal to the neolibs. Russiagate, Ukrainegate. Trump is the most evil, destructive person, dangerous president, and blah, 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 blah. Okay, so you're not fishing for any of the Trump people. You don't want any of them, even though you went on Fox News. And he did a great town hall on Fox News. I'll never forget that. That was one of his best campaign moments, where he explained his positions, talked about how they weren't radical, brought them to the mainstream. Very rarely. But then he went off on the tangent. And he lost. He lost to Trump, basically, at that moment, where he said, yeah, we need to impeach. Well, why? Because of Russia? And then Russia, the whole Russia narrative comes right after you. Of course. Of course it does. Because of Russia. Bernie, Russia. Okay, Bloomberg just was running, he's running a pick, if you're using a basketball analogy. He was running a pick for Biden. Bernie, you're a communist. And then the crowd reacts. And then the people that Bloomberg had paid to be in the audience reacted the way the neoliberal establishment wants them to react to a Bernie Sanders. Bernie's mistake, and it's a big career-long mistake, is that he can bring his worldview to the mainstream. Especially when you consider what's been happening around the world. It's been more of a conservative shift in countries like Great Britain. Could be France too, we don't know. But Macron was basically like electing, Mayor Pete. But that didn't help them, obviously. And then you've got the Yellow Vest movement. And you've got a lot of people that say they're going to get all violent, but I guarantee you they're all going to shrivel up and go away. Because they realize that this entire system is broken and they still have to feed themselves and take care of themselves, maybe. Unless their parents are doing it for them. I don't know. I know this is a lot. This is quite a bit of a tangent from this tweet, which says if Bernie and Tulsi Gabbard unite, they can win this primary, period. No, it's over. The primary is over. Now, if Bernie drops out and endorses Tulsi Gabbard for president, and then people get a really good look at who Tulsi Gabbard is, are there enough delegates left for Tulsi Gabbard to win the primary? Probably not. But she could go to the convention, and she could really cause some kind of a reaction, at least begin some type of a movement, because Tulsi Gabbard is the future, Bernie Sanders is not the future. So that's my video on this. On its face, when I first saw this tweet, I said, oh no. It felt like I needed to respond to it. They can't win. The other roadblock, obviously, to winning is what they will do if they teamed up. Remember, Hillary Clinton and the narrative out there is that Tulsi Gabbard is a Russian asset, and the other narrative is that Bernie has help, supposedly, from the Russians, and he played their game, and he still has been branded as a guy who's getting help from Vladimir Putin. I tell you, the only one getting help from Putin is me. That's it. Nobody else. I have that coveted position of getting help from Vladimir, who's, by the way, I guess trying to get his presidency guaranteed through the year like 2036 or something like that. It's great. Look, it's Russia. Let them do what Russia's going to do. And the rest of the world, we're all sovereign nations, maybe, to some degree, or we should be. But this tweet kind of exemplifies, I think, what's wrong with some progressives. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with Carly Fiorina, ladies and gentlemen. Remember her? What a horrible candidate. Anyway, Fiorella, and I like her, and I like pasta, and I like the whole comfortable couch thing. The problem I'm having with the progressive folks right now is they need to understand how the rest of the country thinks. They're in a very narrow sliver, very narrow, and we found that out because Bernie, with all of the money he raised and all of the things he did, could only bring out, he had a limit. He peaked, like I said, a couple weeks ago. And you've got to figure out a way to unite the people who are maybe populist right with populist left. I heard Kim Iverson talking about this. I think there's some truth to that. But I think you have to build an even bigger coalition. You've got to reach people with real information, the people who are these neoliberals and neoconservatives who may not see the danger of, running our country off the war machine forever. Like, that's not a sustainable economy over the long term. So, in any event, I'm going to stop because I don't want to pile on. I have a platform. These guys have a more popular platform than I. And, of course, I am not jealous or vindictive. I am envious, though, and I wish them the best. I think they will pivot, and they will understand in the long run that we need a bigger coalition, a bigger tent, if you will, and we need to understand that Tulsi Gabbard, in the end, is not going to unite with a prostitute. That's my video. All right, thanks for watching. See you soon.